We wanted something that was fun and funny, and the Comedy of Errors 100% fits the bill for that. It is a farce, it is funny, it is one of Shakespeare's earliest comedies, and it's just fun. Lord Denney's Players is a theater company housed within the Department of English, and it's important for a number of reasons, but I think the main one is that it was founded in 2014 by Dr. Sarah Neville to demonstrate the value and vitality of student-driven academic theater.
I suppose its importance actually transcends the Department of English a little bit. It is interesting that it is an English department, project, but really all the students, as you'll see in the show, are from many, many departments. We had students from mechanical engineering, students from zoology, students from psychology, students from women, gender, sexuality studies, students from all over converging in the Department of English, which really is something that is unique about the English department at a lot of levels. And I think Lord Denney's Players kind of exemplifies that.
We chose the Comedy of Errors this year for a few reasons. First of all, this is Lord Denney's Players' first in-person show since 2019. So first in-person show in 3 years. So we wanted something that was fun and funny, and the Comedy of Errors 100% fits the bill for that.
We know that the play was first or early performed in 1594. And this was a time when Shakespeare's audiences had experienced major plague outbreak, and the theaters had been closed. They had experienced periods of isolation somewhat similarly to what we have experienced today. So I think we can understand why at that time they really liked some hilarious slapstick.
I think a lot of the humor in Comedy of Errors still works pretty well, partly because there's so much that depends on the confusion of identity. Just the idea of having two sets of identical twins and preposterously identical.
Oh, sir, I did not look so low. To conclude, this drudge or diviner laid claim to me, called me Dromio, swore I was assured to her, told me what privy marks I had about me, such as the mark on my shoulder, the mole on my neck, and the great wart on my left arm, that I, amazed, ran from her as a witch. And I think that if my breast had not been made of faith and my heart of steel, she had transformed me to a curdled dog and made me turn of the wheel.
Comedy of Errors offers 3 options for women. You can get married and become a wife and then probably a mother. You can become a nun, or you can become a prostitute. And the Comedy of Errors doesn't really offer anything else besides that. Not every female character in the play thinks that life should be that way.
The discussion between the husbands and wives in the play draws on things, especially that St. Paul says in his epistles, that were part of the common culture of thinking about relations between husbands and wives. I should say also that Shakespeare isn't just sort of blindly or blandly incorporating these illusions. He's playing with them, he's riffing with them, and sometimes pushing back against them. So St. Paul says that husbands should be the head, women should obey. But that's not actually how it comes out in the play. Even though Adriana kind of mouths those views, it's actually the women rather than the men who are in many cases the sort of driving forces, or the people who bring things about, bring about resolution, as especially the abbess at the very end.
Whoever hath bound him, I will loose his bonds and gain a husband by his liberty. Speak, old Aegean, if thou beest the man that hadst a wife once called Amelia, who bore thee at a burden 2 fair sons, oh, speak, old Aegean. If thou beest the same man, speak, and speak unto the same Amelia.
The rehearsal process for this play was pretty short compared to other plays I had done. I think we had about 2 months of rehearsal.
It was a bit of an adjustment. Obviously, having for previous years, exclusively virtual rehearsals
rehearsal process was fast is probably like the simplest way I could describe it. Like I think we had to get off book in like 2-ish weeks, which as someone who has never acted or really memorized more than a singular line before, getting off book in 2 weeks with that many lines struck the fear of God into my heart.
I would wait until they pass the line, like this plane, but they don't have to be like completely off. You can come out while people are still exiting.
My character, Luciana, is Adriana's sister, and Luciana is very old-fashioned. She very much believes in like the roles of a stereotypical husband and the roles of a stereotypical wife. So even though she really believes in these very strict societal roles, she very much loves her sister and wants to stick up for her sister. And I think in that way, we're very similar.
My character it kind of gets like thrown around a lot, and is sarcastic and funny about it, and like has like tiny little rebellions against like his master and like against being like just like straight up smacked. And so I think that's in particular my favorite part about the character of Dromio, and both Dromios are like this, is that like while they don't like hit back and they don't like fight back against their masters like physically, they still rebel and they still flout the social norm of like how a servant is supposed to behave, by like disrespecting like their masters, or like their masters' wives.
Say what you will, sir, but I know what I know, that you beat me at the mart. I have your hand to show. If the skin were parchment and the blows you gave were ink, your own handwriting would tell you what I think.
I did not act pre-pandemic, so I don't know. I don't really know what it's like to act without a mask. And even when I was acting with a mask, I would still emote on the bottom half of my face.
I'm not always a super expressive person, like with my eyes and my eyebrows. So one thing that I really had to adjust to with the mask was kind of figuring out how I can portray more than like 1 or 2 emotions with the upper half of my face, and also incorporating body language. We all had to get, I think, more animated and like not be afraid to gesture more, even if like maybe we wouldn't gesture as largely if we had the rest of our face visible.
The sailors saw for safety by our boat and left the ship, then sinking right into us. My wife, more careful through the laboratory, had fastened them onto a small spare mast.
The sort of main academic area we were exploring was the original practice of innyard performances. So we did 1 performance on campus at the Collaboratory in Sullivan Hall and 1 performance at Mikey's Late Night Slice. And both were in very non-traditional theatrical spaces. The Collaboratory is a big conference room, and Mikey's is more of a performance space, but it's upstairs at a pizza place.
Dr. Elizabeth Falter, the director of the show, and I, we went to the spaces, both spaces, before we began rehearsing. And we took very detailed measurements. There were big pillars in the Collaboratory, for instance. And there were also pillars in Mikey's Late Night Slice, going from the ceiling to the floor. Where are they in relation to the walls? How long are the walls, you know? And then deciding, okay, well, where are we imagining the stage spaces? And we would take the measurements. We had blueprints that we had made, and we would tape out the outline of the rehearsal of the performance space in the rehearsal space. LDP rehearsed in a classroom here in Denney. And you know, if you've been in the Denney classrooms, these are not big theater spaces. Some of them are bigger than others, but none of them are quite the size that you would really need to put on a show. We were very blessed to have a creative staff and a group of performers who were very willing to engage with their space, because they were weird spaces. We're very lucky to have a group of people who wanted to have fun with it, smacking themselves up against these pillars, peeking around from behind them, sometimes like charging into them and running into them, getting beat up against them. I think that's the mark of a cast who's willing to have fun. And that's the best thing you can have in a comedy, is a group of people who are having as much fun as the audience is.